Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Marvel figure unboxing and review video. Now today, we're taking a look at something completely wacky, completely different, and very out there. This is of course none other than Zombie Deadpool. Now, we've been saying for the longest time we want Hot Toys to do something different, and this is exactly what I had in mind. Now, yes, we do have a bunch of Deadpool figures, but let's be honest, Deadpool is an awesome character, and if anyone was gonna get the zombified treatment first, honestly, I'm not complaining that it's him. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is down in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art, and right off the bat, I love the way this looks. What are you talking about, Justin? It's just a normal 1/6 scale box. Well, actually, it isn't. They've done this 3D effect to the gashes on the front, kind of meant to replicate the slices through his suit. There is a different blue layer of cardboard underneath the outer layer. Plus, the entire top cover does have this sort of rough raised dotted section, kind of like what you'd expect to see on some comic book font. You also have a very stylized image of Zombie Deadpool, and yes, that is the figure himself. We do have an image of zombified Headpool, and on the back all of the relevant legal information. This is also done in a rather rough feeling cardboard print, and another image of Zombie Headpool. This time he's the right way up. But by far the coolest thing about this package is Hot Toys actually went to town and included a read-up that outlines why they decided to make Zombie Deadpool, and also a little bit more detail as to the origin of this particular version of the character, so feel free to pause that and give it a read. You can also see Zombie Deadpool himself. Now, initially, I wasn't entirely sold, but now that we've been having all of those conversations about Hot Toys making new and different stuff, this kind of is coming at the perfect time, at least for me. Now, all of the top tray accessories do come off with the top cover. Don't worry, we'll take a look at those in just a second. But here we have him. First in-hand impressions are very positive. This guy, if I had to describe him in one word, it would be gory, and I personally am all for it. Now, as you can see, he comes with a second tray plus his awesome backdrop, so what we are going to do now is get all of Zombie Deadpool's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have almost all the parts and pieces. We will be taking a look at the diorama backdrop in just a second. Now, starting off with the display base first, it's the usual Hot Toys rectangular style base. You do have a Deadpool logo up on top with some brains up the top there, and then on the front, Zombie Deadpool done in a very comic book style font. To go along with the display base, we have a dynamic flight pole and a secondary one on the side that is adjustable that's actually meant to be used with Headpool, so you can have him hovering up the top near Deadpool's noggin. Now, you do have a port in the back that he pegs into, and yeah, he's very comic booky. What do I mean by that? Well, the expression is super exaggerated. His eyes popping out. He does have his whirling rotor up the top, which, by the way, is a very neat effect, but his skin tone is very, very flat. There isn't a ton of texture, nor is there a ton of surface detail. The mask, however, does look great, and so too does the little cap. It looks completely rusted out. I wouldn't have minded if they'd sort of given us the suggestion of a neck where this guy had been severed off, but they haven't because you do have a moving jaw. If they'd included that, then yes, the jaw wouldn't have been able to move, so I totally understand why they've done that. Now, you do get another little companion being Zombie Squirrel Pool. I love the pose, I love the texture of the fur, and yes, you guessed it, I love the meat showing through the fur there. You can see his little rib cage, and that can be seen around the back as well, plus some bones here and there. You also have some very rubbery swords, so they shouldn't break off. Now I don't know if this guy is going to be stable without his display base, but I'm pretty sure if you wanted to go without it, you could figure out a way of making him stable enough. Now you do have some weapons for Zombie Deadpool, as you'd expect. This appears to be the same piece that we got with the movie Deadpool, although the swords are different. They're a lot flatter up the top, and they aren't made of metal. They do, however, have that little pattern on the front of the blade, and they are painted for the handle quite nicely. You do have the suggestion of a Deadpool logo up there as well, and then they very simply slide in place. This does magnetize on the back of Deadpool, and you'll see that a little bit later in the video. You do get two of his red Desert Eagles, which are painted very nicely. I love the gradient between the darker red and the lighter, more vibrant red. You also have a moving slide with a bullet up on top, and then you can, if you get it just right, remove the magazine. I wouldn't mind if one day Hot Toys starts to give us spare magazines so you can have your figures reloading. You also have a little blade which is rather sharp, so do be careful not to prick yourself, and this guy is suitably metallic. Lastly, you also get a grenade. This is a pretty small little piece, but I think this might just be one of the only times we've received a grenade with a Marvel character. It's not something that I'm used to seeing, but yeah, I love to see it. Now you do get the full array of zombified eyes, starting off with the orange bloodshot-esque eyes. They look great. Then moving down to the very same sculpt, except this time they're white, so they're kind of more like dead zombie eyes. And then we have just the regular, sort of more furrowed brow expression for Deadpool eyes. You also get two different mouth options. One where the skin has been torn away as his jaw has been hinged open and maybe he's trying to eat someone, whereas the other is more of a clenching teeth look. I don't know which is my preferred out of the two. We'll find out throughout the course of the video. You also get this arrow. I don't know if this is an arrow that Hawkeye has shot at Zombie Deadpool, but I love the onomatopoeia on the side and the translucent blood effect to the tip of the arrow and at the base as well. Trust me, when you see this in Zombie Deadpool's head, I'm pretty sure this is going to be something you're going to want to display him with permanently. It is that darn awesome. You also get some trigger finger hands and some gripping hands, and they do have some unique detail depending on the side they go with. You have the skin torn away, it's very glossy, you can see some tendons and sinewy detail, it's nasty, there's some skin texture on the blue, but yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out. What we are going to do now though is get the diorama backdrop for Zombie Deadpool out here and take a closer look. Here it is unassembled. Now if you are wondering how you actually go about assembling it so it looks like the comic cover like it's supposed to, the instructions do a great job of explaining how it all comes together. Now there are a ton of different parts and pieces that you will have to work with, and a ton of little 3M adhesive strips to stick everything together. So it's not going to be the most straightforward construction in the world. I do at the very least hope it's nice and secure. But if you're wondering what it looks like fully assembled, here we have it, fully assembled, and oh yes, this is awesome. However, the instructions simply aren't. They don't do a very good job at all in terms of telling you how and where to attach everything, specifically the letters. You have 3 different lengths of these foam core adhesive blocks, but they don't tell you which one to use for each individual letter. You kind of just have to figure it out and hope that you've got it right. Now on the side here, you do have Zombie Duckpool, who is of course swearing, and Zombie Headpool will be floating around here. You also have some onomatopoeia for him as well. I do love the 3D effect. As you look at it in the display, stuff is coming out at you, there's some depth there, and then through the front we have a caution and warning tape. Now you do get multiples if you'd like to use more, or you could potentially tear some up and have him bursting through. Then down below we have an image of Zombie Dogpool, I guess, with a human hand in his mouth. Overall, yes, I'm very happy with the way this looks, and it couldn't be any more fitting. Deadpool bursting out of a Marvel Zombies comic is super meta, and I love the way they've done this. Fingers crossed with the rest of the comic book line, we get more backdrops like this. Now, just quickly before we move on, I wanted to show you what he looks like in front of his diorama backdrop. And yeah, this looks fantastic. It's no easy feat to accomplish, so if you're thinking about trying this, then just make sure you have a bunch of time set aside because it's quite tedious to do, and I ended up going without the caution and warning tapes just because they made it even more cumbersome. But if you sit down, take your time and get this right, then yeah, I reckon you're going to be very happy with the result. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses, but all of the accessories have been stored on the body. Now looking at this guy through the lens, I can unequivocally say that he is bringing me so much joy. It's something completely different, which we've been asking for a very long time. Just like Venomized Groot really surprised me, I'm super glad that I got this guy in hand first before making any judgment calls on whether or not he was going to be good. We start to lose focus in this figure collecting community of what truly matters. Not, oh, what's coming out next, or why didn't they do this? The figures themselves, and when they are wacky and out there and unique and shelf-present stealers like this guy, we kind of owe it to ourselves to step back and appreciate the art, which is exactly what I'm doing. I am loving the way this guy looks. He might just be up there with my top 10 figures of this year. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal, and as far as I can recall, I don't think I've ever seen anything as gory as this guy is from Hot Toys. I mean, yeah, the Battle Damage DX13 kind of comes close, but this guy has flesh ripped and torn away and bones being exposed. He looks nasty, and I love it. I'm all for it. A zombie version of Deadpool, something I never thought Hot Toys was going to make, but yeah, here we have him. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, I will swap out the lower jaw in just a second so you can see what that looks like. It's pretty straightforward to accomplish. It's a magnetic piece. But let's talk about it. The texture is on point, it does match the suit itself, and then you do have a bunch of gashes and tears and blood and gore poking through, even down at the base of the neck, where you can see the suggestion of his spine. That is completely nasty, but it works perfectly for Deadpool. Now, I know a bunch of you will be questioning the material choice. It's this very thin, rubbery style material, and you can see it's fabric backed, so I hope that it stands the test of time, but we can only wait and see. At this point, we've got no real indication as to whether or not this will last. It is significantly different to the suit that we saw from movie Deadpool. That felt like a screen-printed material. This feels a lot more synthetic, and I think they had to do it this way so they could have the various tears in the material showcasing the flesh underneath. And yeah, it's gory. It's wet looking. You can even see his little heart poking out behind his ribcage there. And then you have the bones on top. You also have a bunch of dirt and grime. You can see his suit isn't pristine. He's been through some stuff at this point. And then the magnet in the back for his sheaths. Now, it is an asymmetrical design. That means one side is different from the other, which works very nicely. You've got a little bit more skin and his gauntlet has been torn away on one side, where it's a bit more intact on the other. Then, coming down to his legs, you've got a massive torn away section showing one of his bones and a little bit more gore on the side, plus some staples, which do surprisingly look suitably metallic. They're actually a part of the suit itself. Now, the black material feels very similar to pleather, although I don't think it is. I think it's just that same synthetic rubbery style plastic that has a texture that looks and feels like pleather. You do also have the various pouches which are fixed in place. It doesn't seem to want to move around, which I think is a good thing because it'll always be in the correct position. It's also made of sculpted rubbery plastic, so no pleather here at least to worry about. Then, coming down to the boots, as you can see, one has been torn or potentially ripped and eaten away, and you can see even more flesh underneath. But the cool thing is, if you lift up the suit, there is actually more flesh detail underneath the fabric that would otherwise be hidden. So Hot Toys didn't cheap out and it's just bare unpainted plastic above here. They went to town with the detailing. And the skin is blue and very dead, one would assume, but there is still some skin texture over the top. And they've also done some airbrush shading on the torn away sections, so it's not just a clean break. You can see that, yeah, this has been completely torn away, and it wasn't the cleanest break either. You also have a ton of cracks in the other side, and some dirt and grime on the soles of his shoes. But for those wondering what this head sculpt looks like with potentially the white eyes and the closed mouth, here we have it. And yeah, it looks pretty darn decent. It's not my preferred out of the two looks. I much would rather have the open mouth on him raging out trying to get to some flesh, and then the bulging orange eyes. The white ones do look suitably dead, as you'd expect with him being a zombie, but there's something about the jaw sitting a little bit higher that makes his head look slightly squat. So for me, yeah, I do like this, but I prefer the other option. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have Zombie Deadpool alongside the movie suit from Deadpool 2. Now immediately when Zombie Pool was announced, people were saying, oh, where's he going to go? I immediately thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if you combined Zombie Deadpool, the Sideshow comic book Deadpool, Venom Pool, and the movie one all together on the same shelf to make a Deadpool multiverse? To quote Doctor Strange, the multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little. And frightening is definitely the word I would use to describe whatever hellscape Zombie Deadpool came out of. So who's to say there aren't a bunch of different Deadpools? And one of them just happens to be a zombie. That's what I'm going with, at least in my display. And as you can see, Zombie Deadpool is that little bit taller than the standard one. Not exactly sure which body they're using underneath, but I don't mind a little bit of variance in the height. For those wondering, yeah, you can absolutely take the movie Deadpool head sculpt and pop it on the body. It's compatible right out of the box, no mods required. And I think it looks awesome. This could absolutely be your battle damage Deadpool in the display, although you do have some very zombified hands and some blue flesh, but that's something you can solve quite easily. Use the gloved hands from normal Deadpool, swap out some of the armor pieces, and maybe paint some of the blue flesh, but that would mean that this would then become your permanent display for battle damage Deadpool. But I know some customizers are going to take this and go to town. And vice versa, this head sculpt works perfectly on the Deadpool 2 body. It's a little bit of a looser fit, but it snaps on, it looks in proportion, and I love the way it looks. It's kind of like Deadpool was just bitten and he's turning, and the rest of his suit is still pristine, so it's early days of Zombie Deadpool, plus they do give you the regular eyes, so I think, yeah, if you wanted to do this, it would work. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a fixed neck. That means you do get 1 point of articulation down at the base. It does go forward and back, swivel, and then a little bit of pivot side to side. The arms go up to about there. They will of course go forward and back, but they are on soft ratchets. There is a butterfly joint at the shoulder, swivel up there as well, a single bend at the elbow that incorporates a swivel, and of course a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso does crunch forward and back at 2 separate points, one at the upper, then one at the lower. You do have swivel, and then of course some pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there, they will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, a ratcheted double bend at the knee that goes way past 90, and of course a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just going over the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is the way that this knife just sort of loosely fits in the holster. It doesn't lock in place. Maybe it's just mine and yours is going to be perfectly fine, but this does have a habit of floating around and not being very secure. The second annoying thing is how weak the magnet is on the sheaths for the swords. It does hold in place, but literally at the slightest touch it will go falling off. So trust me, when you get to posing your Zombie Deadpool, dial in the pose first, then reattach this piece, because otherwise you're going to get really frustrated. The third annoying thing, and this doesn't bother me, but I know it's going to bother some, but we only have single jointed elbows. Now, I think they could have gone for double jointed, because they are completely hidden anyway. Also, when you do go about bending them, they do leave some pretty obvious indentations in the suit. Again, it doesn't bother me, but it's something to be aware of. The first cool thing is the way they've done the arrow in the head. This might just be one of the coolest effects I have ever seen them do. I just love the way it works and the way it looks. You of course have the arrow coming through his head and a little bit of a translucent blood effect, and when you remove it, yes, there is very clearly a hole left in the head sculpt on both sides, but it's done in the places where the battle damage is anyway, so if you weren't looking for it, I don't think it's something that you'd notice. The second cool thing is the way they've done the rips and tears in the suit. Usually Hot Toys will shy away from doing stuff like this for fear of the tears getting worse and revealing more of the body underneath, but I'm pretty sure Hot Toys paid close attention to the placement of these. They do feel very sturdy, and I don't think they're going to get any worse and tear even further. Plus, even if they did, I reckon it would just add to the disheveled, battle damaged look of Zombie Deadpool. The third cool thing is that there is a ton of variety with the expressions you can pull off with this figure. Now, you can go for the one with the orange eyes straight out of the box, or you can go for something like this, with some more traditional comic book Deadpool style eyes and his closed mouth. Or if you wanted to get really wacky, you could do this. The possibilities really are endless. This one I really like. It shows that maybe he's mid-transformation and his mask hasn't been completely destroyed yet, but there is so much personality with all of the options for the head sculpt. Just wrapping up on the Hot Toys Zombie Deadpool. Now, this guy didn't really have me all that excited when they announced him, but after they started releasing Spider-Man after Spider-Man after Spider-Man, and don't get me wrong, I love Spider-Man, I was craving something different. And that's exactly what this guy is. it's a breath of fresh air, and I can very clearly tell that Hot Toys had so much fun making this figure, from the comic book backdrop to the awesome accessories to the read up on the inside of the box that they never usually do. Hot Toys had a blast. And so too did I, recording this video. He was so much fun to work with. I loved the suit, I loved the blood and gore, the accessories are top notch, and the posability, while restricted in some areas, is more than serviceable. Plus, because he's a zombie, he can get pretty janky with the way he's standing and still work perfectly fine. I'm super excited, not just for this release, but to see what people do with him in their displays. Where's he going to go? Who's he going to be posed with? That's the true exciting part for me personally. Now do let me know what you think of him down in the comments below. If you are looking to pick him up, Toys Wonderland has him. He's in stock right now. They've got 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. I've popped the link down in the description. While you are there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.